Okay, and welcome to today's tutorial from Les Arnott. And what we're looking at today is replacing the colour of this blue chair and changing it to a brown colour. Now, there are lots of processes to be able to do this, and you've probably viewed many different videos on how to do it. But it is quite difficult to get a really nice, good effect. And this is my own method, and it's a method I think that really works well. It works well because it preserves the luminance of the object. In other words, if we look at the blue chair there's highlights on there, there's dark areas, there's shadow and detail. And the method that I use retains the luminance of the colour so that it looks a lot more realistic than using filters or any other method that you can think of. It will give the perfect result. So, first of all, as always, I'm going to go to the layers. I'm going to duplicate the layer just to protect the original image. And what I want to do first of all is to create a really good mask. And that's the important part in anything that you're doing where we're changing things, or editing pictures. If we've got a good mask to start with, it makes things much easier. So what I want to do is to make a selection of the blue chair. So using the new tool that we've got in Photoshop, which is the object selection tool, we're going to be using that. So I'm going to click there. And then if we look at the different choices on the options bar at the top there, I'm going to make sure that it's on add to selection first of all, which is the second one of these buttons going along there. And the mode, you can use rectangle or lasso. I'm going to use lasso. It's much quicker and easier for this selection. Okay, and basically all I do is I'm going to draw around the blue area with the chair. Not being too fussy, and I'll let go, and it tries to make a selection. And you can see it's done a pretty good job. There's just a few little areas that it hasn't picked up. So I'm on this add to selection, remember, and that's the important part. I'm going to add now. So there's a bit missing down here, so I'm just going to draw around this area. Simple as that, and it will add that area. Now it's got a bit of the chair leg there, and I'm going to get rid of that in a moment, but we'll continue adding parts that we've missed. So there's a bit of a shadow area there that I want, so I'll put that in. There's a little bit here. I'm going to add that. And we're looking pretty much good everywhere else, I think. Maybe a little bit on the edge there, not sure. We'll just go over to make sure. There you are. So we've got a good selection. Now when you do this, I was just a bit down the bottom there, just going to add that. When you do this, you may not be so successful in selecting. It depends completely on your picture. You do have to keep, trying, and if you've got parts where you want to deselect a part, so I want to deselect this leg down there, then we go to this button here, which will remove parts of the selection. So I'm just going to draw around that area there, and it's taken that out. It's took a part out that I don't want to take out, so I just click on add again and just redo that. By using these tools, they have got a bit of artificial intelligence. In other words, when you make a selection, if it doesn't quite come out right and then you use the other tool to remove it and add it again, it sort of learns the process and helps get the selection. Okay, there may be, no, I'm okay now. I think I'm happy with that, and I can always touch this up later. That's the nice thing about this. So what I'm going to do now is to go back to my layers, and I'm going to add a new layer. And when I add the new layer, because I've got the selection, I can then go to the mask tool down there, the add layer mask. So that's just down there, the square with the black circle. And I click on that, and that will add a mask to this layer. And that means that anything I do with this layer, it will only happen in that particular area. And what I want to do with this is to choose a colour for the chair, well, I want it to be brown, so I'm going to go to the foreground colour here. I'm going to look at the browns, so I'll drag down to the reds there, and I'm going to go for quite a darkish brown like that. Now when I do this, you'll notice that it comes out a lot lighter, but that's to do with the luminance of the chair, and we're retaining the luminance, so it takes a bit of understanding, but we'll get there. Okay, so that's the colour that I'm going to use. I'll click on OK. Now if I colour in this layer, remember I'm still on this layer, what will happen is it will only colour in the area of the mask, and I need to make sure that I'm not on the mask but actually on the physical layer. So before, if you look, the squares around the mask, it needs to be on the actual layer. And then once I've got that, all I need is the paint bucket tool, and I click and it colours that in. And you say, that's terrible. Yeah, and it is. But there's things we need to do yet. Now, before we do anything else, we're just going to have a look around this. Yeah, it's not too bad. We got a little bit of blue there, but we'll sort that out in a moment. So all I'm going to do now is touch this up a little bit. While we've got this mode on, I'm going to touch it up with a brush. Okay, so to add the colour to these areas, what I need to do is to go to the mask. So if we go to the layers and click on the actual mask, all I need to get these parts in there is to add some white to the actual mask. So the white will show the full opacity of this layer. If I paint black, it will make it transparent and you will see what's underneath. So I need to make sure that I get a white brush, and I've selected the brush and I've put the hardness down to 66%, and I'm just going to. And the nice thing about this is if you go wrong, you can just stop and you can easily put it right by using a black brush and taking it out. So it's, you know, you're not stuck with what you have. We've got the main selection already. It's just a matter of just touching this up a little bit. I don't mind too much if I come over a little bit of these dark areas, because it's just going to add a bit of brown to that. You won't really see the effect. And that again is because we'll be keeping the luminance of the actual photograph. In other words, the light and the dark areas will still apply. And that's quite hard to do if you use other methods. I've got a bit here. Little bits on the edge. And when you do this, you just take your time, just do a little bit at a time and let go. Then should you go wrong, you can either paint with another brush, with a black brush, or you can just click undo. Like I've gone wrong there, so I'll press Command Z on my Mac and that will undo. It just allows me to do that little bit. So if you hold down the brush for a long time and you undo, it undoes a lot of the drawing that you've actually done. So it's best to release now and then you can undo it quite easily. Just do a little bit at a time. Okay, so I'm almost there now. I'm just going to do this little bit. And for the purpose of demonstration, I'm happy enough with that, I think. There we go. So let's just double click the tool. So we've got our new colour. Now, to make that colour work, what we need to do is to go to the layers, and where we've got the word normal, we want to change this layer mode, the layer mode style, to colour. So if I click on colour, we have now got this colour applied to the chair. Now you're saying, well, it isn't that colour because it now looks more of a buff green, a buff white colour. You know, it's like a totally different colour to the colour we actually selected, and that's true. We only need to tone it with the colour to start with, and then we can work on different ways of making it darker or completely changing the colour if we wish to. we have now got this mask, and that mask is important because we can reuse that for other things. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the adjustment layers, and I'm going to put an adjustment on here for a curve. So I'll click on the curves, and I'm going to darken the image. Now, I'm not really bothered about any other picture except the chair, because I'm going to copy that mask over to this layer. So all I'm looking at is the chair. So if I have it that dark, that's fine. But it's still not the colour I want. So what I'm going to do is to go to these, where we've got RGB up there, we've got these different things. We've got red, green, blue. I'm going to go to red because it's brown. And I want to introduce more red. So I'm going to click in the middle here and just drag this up slightly. Now remember, I'm only looking at the chair. I'm not bothered about all of the rest of the image. That can do whatever it wants. It's just the chair I'm interested in. Okay, so I've got the red. Now let's go to the blues. Now, if I increase the blue, we'll get more of a purple type colour. But if I decrease the blue, it'll introduce more yellow. And we get that. Okay, let's have a look at the green. So if I reduce the green, now I've got quite a red chair. I'll go back to all these colours and play as much as I want. I'm going to bring that down a little bit. And now I'm getting the colour that I want. It's like this dark brown colour. Okay, so that's the colour that I want. I'm going to go back to the layers. And all I need to do now is, when we do a curve, it automatically puts a mask on. Now, I don't need that mask. I want a copy of this one. And all I need to do is to right click on this, delete the layer mask. And then when I click on this one, I'm going to hold down the Option key. Now, I'm not sure on Windows. I think it could be the Alt or the Control key. And you need to try this with both those keys and just see if it goes wrong, just undo it. So I'm holding down the Option key on the mask. So the Option key down, and I drag this mask up to there, and that has put the same mask on that we used here. And so we have got this now adjustment. If I click on the eye, that'll take it off. We have got that adjustment on the chair. So there we have changed the colour of the chair to brown, and you can see what I mean about the shadow and the highlights on that chair are still identical to the original image and the original colour. We haven't changed the shadow, we haven't changed the highlights, and that will work because we've selected this layer mode of colour on the first instance of creating that new layer. So when we created the layer and we coloured it in, using that layer mode on that, we'll do that. It will colour it in, but it will maintain the luminance of the image. It will maintain the shadow and the highlights exactly as they was in the original photo. And that is the difference exactly. If you start doing colour replacements using the normal methods, you will lose that. It will start to lose it. So this is by far the best way to do a colour replacement. And we got full control of that. Let's say you got a product. If you sold these chairs and you want different colours, I can now just simply click on this top layer, the curves layer, and I can play as much as I want. If I go to the red layer, I can say, well, I want it green. I can drag that down. I've got green. I can play with this to my heart's content and get any colour chair that I want. We've got a nice red chair there now. We've got a green one. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go to greens, and I'll drag that up, and I've got a brighter green, or I've got a darker green. So we've got like a teal colour there. I can go to blue, and I can increase the blue, get a blue chair, or I can get a dark green chair, or whatever. Any colour that I want is there now. Okay, so we've got all those different styles. I'm just going to go to the history and go back to where we was. It's the one. Okay, so we're back to our brown chair. So really, really easy once you've learnt the process to be able to do that. The hardest part, of course, like with any part of Photoshop, is getting that selection, but that new selection tool really helps you do that. And remember, you can always touch it up with a brush. You use a white brush on the mask to bring it in, or if you've got parts that you need to take out, you use a black brush. So there you go, a really professional way of changing the colour of an item on an image. Hope that helps you out. All the best, Les Arnott. Oh, and a big thanks to Richie Arrowsmith, who supplied the image. Thanks, buddy. Bye.